What is up, folks? Welcome back. This is the second episode of Absolutely Killing It as Austria, where we're going to be focusing on what should be your second objective, which is breaking into Italy. However, breaking into Italy via attacking Venice. Obviously, your two primary targets are going to be the Papal State and Venice. And notice that I have broken my alliance with the Papal State. Of course, hoping the fact that I was allied to him has taken its toll on his diplomatic situation, and shortly I'm going to begin fabricating on the Papal State to be prepped and ready to go to war with him once the 5-year truce actually comes up. Now, with that being said, the reason I focus on Venice first is there's a couple reasons, and one is because he actually has the tendency, or the potential rather, to build up a tremendous alliance, especially in terms of a defensive alliance via his trade league. Now, it just so happened in my game that he went to war against Serbia, and Bosnia is defending Serbia. This happens very consistently from my experience. And then he was dragged into a war over defending Albania via the Ottomans. And you could see on the onset of this video that he was in really bad shape to actually the Serbians in the Serbian war, because the Ottomans kind of paved their way for success. So you might think, okay, you got really lucky, right, Monk, and this is going to be easy. Well, actually wrong. And the reason is because Venice allied Aragon. Now, Aragon in the beginning of the game is obviously one of the greater powers, with himself being strong, but also his union over Naples. And I just want to say that I actually got very unlucky with that alliance. And Venice, from my experience, he usually does have about one ally if you give him some time. But that ally is usually more like Genoa as opposed to Aragon. Now, I just want to say also that I highly recommend, guys, that you just do what it takes to win this war. And by that, I mean, don't be afraid to really capitalize on your force limit and take out a large amount of loans if you need to. I have had scenarios where Venice didn't really have a strong alliance, but he did have a massive trade league. And once I declared the war, the force comparison, even though I called Hungarian to help me, was actually we had less troops than they had with their combined alliance. Now that is pretty intimidating, but like I said, I took out a bunch of loans, and I managed to actually hire mercenaries, as well as utilizing all of my manpower, and I was able to defeat them by separate piecing his allies. And of course, the reason that I say don't be afraid to spend money doing this is because as you separate piece each one of his allies, you're going to be able to take out, steal from them, revoke their money, but also their war reparations, resulting in a lot of income and enabling you to pay off your debts. You can see here that I'm trying my best to take advantage of the forts here in Tyrol. Apparently not having a huge amount of success, but we're having a massive bonus there each time I fight in the mountains, and Austria has a massive territorial advantage over Venice in this scenario. Now, I did myself call in Hungary, which you might find, depending on your game, there is no need to. I have played games where Venice is getting wrecked by the Ottomans, etc., and does not have a strong defensive alliance. Don't be afraid to call in Hungary by promising him land, and there's absolutely no need to give him land, because you're going to basically break your alliance with Hungary anyway in order to go in against him soon enough to take over his throne via the personal union. Now, speaking about the personal union, guys, there is only one way in which it is guaranteed that you get the union, and that is actually having your truce up, having no truce with Hungary when the event fires. And the reason is because there are three scenarios in what can happen with Hungary. One is that you just straight up get the union over him for free. One is that you get the restoration of the Union CB. And then the third option is that he just has the Habsburg ruler on his throne. In order to guarantee that you get the union, you actually need your truce to be up, and you actually need to be able to claim his throne and declare on him if that third case scenario occurs where he does not he just has your dynasty on the throne. So it is guaranteed, assuming that you can defeat him in a war, but you actually do not want to have a truce. Now, it just so happens in my case, because I am utilizing him, I did end up having a truce. So just be aware of that. If you don't break your alliance early with Hungary, there is a slim chance that you will not get the union over him, and that is if he just takes the Habsburg. Now, keep in mind, if he does have a Habsburg dynasty, you'll probably end up PUing him at some point. But back to the focus on Venice here, pretty self-explanatory, guys. I actually end up fighting quite a hard war. As you can see, I begin by separate piecing his two little members of a trade league up in the north, and now I'm focusing my efforts on taking over Treviso, I believe is how it's pronounced, because of the strategic strength of it. It really blocks Venice out and makes him actually trapped essentially on his island, and then his only opportunity really is to either assault places from sea, which is very easy to stomp on those troops as they do that, or walk onto Treviso itself, where he will actually get a massive disadvantage in the hills. So that's where I was focusing most of my efforts, as Aragon is having trouble getting access over here, and he's actually sending troops via sea. Now, unfortunately, this war does go on, and I need the length of war bonus as well as working Aragon down to actually white piece him, I believe I did, and then at that point Venice is done. Now, lastly, let's talk about what you're actually going to be doing to Venice as a victory condition. What is your goal? The way that I look at it is that aggressive expansion, we need to achieve all of the central Italian provinces, as you guys know, I'm sure. And I view aggressive expansion at almost like a currency that needs to be spent. If you don't have any, or if you have very little aggressive expansion, you want to be gaining some of that aggressive expansion and moving further towards achieving your goals, so that over time the aggressive expansion is diminishing rather than doing it all at once and your aggressive expansion is too high. Now, I actually claim up Verona and Friuli, if I pronounce those correctly, and those are the two provinces that are of my highest priority and interest. And the reason is because in a war to come in the future, I want to be able to obtain that fort again in Treviso in order to gain some war score over Venice if he does have a naval superiority, etc. Now, whether you take one or two provinces is up to you. What you'll find is actually the rate at which you defeat Venice after defeating Bohemia is going to actually determine whether or not you can take one or two provinces without occurring a coalition. Yes, unfortunately, if you go in against Bohemia and you have a swift victory, go in against Venice and have a swift victory, you will actually get a large coalition by just taking two of his provinces. So most likely you're going to have to go for one province. You can see here in my case, Naxos was separately peaceable because he was actually released as a subject, or from being a subject status, by probably the Ottomans or the Serbians or something to that effect. So I separate pieced them. They're gaining a little bit more war score. So in conclusion, you're going to want to take at least one province to get the ball rolling, taking the territory that is required to reign in Italy. And you're also going to want to humiliate rival. Now, naturally, the power projection is very nice to have over 50 power projection and gain those benefits, but the real reason that you're humiliating guys is, if you recall on these Austrian games, the real innovative tactic and innovative thing that is really inspiring, if you will, or inspired me to create these videos in this series was, of course, stealing the unions in Scandinavia. And in order to do that, you're going to have the second bonus in the Age of Discovery, the second bonus which actually allows you to take or transfer subjects at 50% cost. This is actually absolutely crucial. So in order to actually gain Splendor, we need to fulfill one of the age objectives, and one of the age objectives is humiliate rival. So it is absolutely essential that you get that as soon as possible, which means the minimum peace out is going to be over one province like Verona or Friuli, and humiliate rival. That's what you're going to do. And thanks for watching the second episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the future. in the third episode. Thank you very much for watching.